Reboots and revivals of beloved films and shows have essentially become unavoidable in recent years, and while most of these are hit or miss, one particular genre has had a pretty hard time finding its footing when trying to bring media into the modern era: kids and teen shows. From iCarly to Boy Meets World to Gilmore Girls to almost Lizzie McGuire and beyond, studios clearly have a desire to bring the shows we loved as kids and teens back to our screens in new ways. But these shows always seem to flounder with the most important aspect: figuring out how to actually show these characters as real grown-ups going through new adult issues. Let's take a deeper look at what's caused the disconnect with these kinds of attempted reboots, what has worked, and what studios need to learn if they want to actually bring the original fans back on board. Many credit Hollywood's obsession with rebooting old properties to an overall lack of originality in storytelling. However, there are a slew of creatives out there with unique stories to tell, it's just that they don't get the opportunity to share with the world on a larger scale. Studios prefer a risk-averse strategy, meaning that they want a sure thing that will make a profit, which is why they've turned to capitalize on existing intellectual property, or IP. From the big screen to their living rooms to their laptops, consumers are surrounded by nostalgia-driven content. Whether it's having Gilmore Girls on in the background while doing homework or cozying up to watch a Friends marathon after a long day, we seek the comfort of old favorites, particularly in times of stress and anxiety. And in recent years, the need for the familiar and the safe is higher than ever. Nostalgia is often a coping mechanism for major life events, a way to escape to simpler, happier times when we didn't have a full-time job, mortgage, or endless bills. That's what studios want to tap into because, well, it sells. Enter the reboot. There are plenty of different goals or reasons one could have to revive an old series. Sometimes a reboot is a continuation, revisiting characters and picking up where they left off, especially if the show was abruptly canceled or ended on a cliffhanger. Sometimes it's about showing how our favorite characters from childhood handle being adults with real responsibilities, including parenthood, where they get to experience life from the other side, or just a desire to introduce a new generation to a beloved classic. There have also been many reimaginings that focus on increasing diversity in a way that the original show did not, with a desire to approach a concept with a fresh modern take and choosing to represent communities previously unseen and underserved. Of course, the entertainment industry is largely focused on money. But the intentions behind a project like resurrecting a past hit TV show can make a huge difference to an audience and the overall quality of the finished product. Whenever a new reboot or revival of a fan favorite from the 90s or 2000s is announced, it's generally met with a combination of excitement and trepidation. Since we grew up invested in the characters' lives, the idea of getting to see how they've grown and changed in the time since we last saw them, and to get to see how they navigate many of the same adult trials and tribulations we're going through, is enticing. But then we remember how most of these reboots have actually turned out, and that excitement can start to wane. There are several reasons why TV reboots can fail to capture the magic of the originals. Shows that have fan-favorite characters take a back seat to spotlight the new characters, usually their kids, seem doomed to fail. These kinds of shows can get caught in a catch-22. They're made to be for a new generation of kids, but the kids don't care about the old property, and the adults have watched the original show so don't want to watch a kids show, so no one ends up happy. Premiering in 1993, Boy Meets World began its 7-season run as a mainstay in ABC's TGIF Thank God It's Friday lineup. People tuned in to see Corey Matthews, his best friend Sean Hunter, and lifelong crush Topanga Lawrence learn valuable lessons from their parents and teacher Mr. Feeney. In 2014, over a decade after BMW ended, the Disney Channel debuted Girl Meets World, which followed Corey and Topanga Matthews' daughter Riley and her best friend Maya Hart. The show was divisive among fans, but it did manage to run for 3 seasons before it was finally canceled in 2017. With the main draw for many being the original characters. Much of the criticism stemmed from the focus on Riley, Maya, and other young characters who weren't as interesting, likable, or relatable. They also missed an opportunity to rectify the poor ending they gave to Sean's on-off relationship with Angela Moore, which ended on a sour note in the penultimate episode.
Let's not say goodbye. Let's just say, I love you.
Their final breakup was widely hated by fans, and the reboot gave them a chance to reunite and rekindle the romance fans waited years to see. Instead, they only featured Angela as a cameo in the 2nd season, giving her a strange reason to reconnect with her ex-boyfriend, and portrayed her solely as the girl who broke Sean's heart.
Why'd you leave me?
I wasn't ready.
And then you were.
Well, life goes on, Sean.
A good revival or continuation has the characters the audience was attached to grow up and mature with them. The initial idea for Paramount Plus's 2021 revival of the Nickelodeon show iCarly had Carly and Spencer mentoring young influencers in a hype house scenario. Luckily, Miranda Cosgrove and her castmates weren't on board with that, and instead pitched following the characters as adults doing adult things, though some fans still felt like their antics were too immature.
This is still iCarly, but it's grown up now.
They also gave Freddie a stepdaughter, leaving some feeling like his identity was too much about being a parent. Still, the conscious approach to gear the show towards the returning audience was a major factor in its success. While some reboots manage to become believably modern, others come off cringe in their efforts to reflect the times. 9 years after its original run ended, HBO Max debuted their reboot of Gossip Girl, introducing an entirely new set of Gen Z characters who were edgier than the previous teenage Upper East Siders. Through cringe dialogue and overtly political storylines, the creators attempted to make the characters more aware of their privilege than their predecessors, but it mostly just came off as disingenuous and condescending.
I told you that I'd find a way to start the war. What better way than leaning into the antiquated fetish of pitting two women against each other? I can't be Blair without a Serena.
Viewers watched the original GG to see rich teens being unapologetically scandalous, catty, and melodramatic.
The rules are different for the Serena Vanderwoodsons of the world. People expect you to party and be wild, sleep with whoever you want, run away, come back.
The new kids got into plenty of drama, but also tried to redeem themselves at the same time, so the scandals never felt that scandalous. And one glaring error was revealing the new identity behind GG in the first episode.
Which one of these should we post next?
Whichever we want. The future is ours again.
Having a group of teachers trolling their students and posting sneaky photos of them was a bizarre choice that drew heavy criticism and pulled most people out of the story pretty early on. Though sometimes being honest about the adulthood of beloved teen characters doesn't work out either. Though Rory's trajectory on the Gilmore Girls revival A Year in the Life was pretty realistic, it also felt like a letdown to a lot of fans to see their favorite character come back only to realize that she didn't seem to have grown as much as a person as they would have hoped. Despite the dreaded reboot curse, not every reboot is bad. Successful shows build on the foundation of the original with stories that appeal to modern audiences instead of just rehashing old plots, while also leaning into the right amount of nostalgia. Disney Channel's Raven's Home, the 2017 follow-up to That's So Raven, ran for 6 seasons and was praised for not only portraying a realistic family for a modern audience, but also for finding the balance between the kids and adult storylines. The show sees BFFs Raven and Chelsea living together with their children as single mothers.
Sure, Garrett stole all my money, but I gotta move in with you, right? And if you think about it, Ray, we are really lucky both of our marriages fell apart.
Raven Simone credits the show achieving intergenerational success for making it clear that this was a new phase in their lives and ultimately a different show. While they still played up the nostalgia factor with returning characters and familiar settings, Raven's Home established itself as something fresh and exciting. Having the original creators and actors involved can also help to ensure that the reboot is not only being made for the right reasons, but also that the new stories are in the best hands.
She was everybody's best friend, and she was there for such pivotal moments in their preteen life. And entering your 30s is a really big deal.
In 2019, it was announced that a Lizzie McGuire reboot for Disney Plus was in the works, with most of the original cast returning, including star Hilary Duff, who also served as an executive producer, and series creator Terry Minsky as showrunner.
Hi, it's me.
However, Disney execs felt the content was too adult for their new streaming service, even though the target audience would be the now grown adults who watched Lizzie as kids and tweens. By the end of 2020, Minsky had already exited the project over creative differences, and the revival was cancelled. Duff said in an Instagram post she'd be doing a disservice to everyone by limiting the realities of a 30-year-old's journey to live under the ceiling of a PG rating. In January 2024, writer Jonathan Horowitz shared some details about the first 3 episodes he worked on for the reboot, 2 of which were already filmed. One scene saw Lizzie the morning after hooking up with longtime crush Ethan.
Lizzie wakes up in Ethan's bed in his water polo t-shirt, and animated Lizzie pops up, and she has this little checklist, like a to-do list, and Ethan is on the list. and she checks it off.
While the actual scene happens off-screen, Disney was still hesitant that it was too grown-up for grown-ups to watch. As this entire debacle took place at the beginning of the streaming service's rollout, it's clear that they were too focused on the wrong audience for the show. But maybe there's hope that now that they've begun to expand what they're willing to show on Disney+, the Lizzie revival might get another chance one day soon. The problem isn't that there are too many reboots, it's that there are too few reboots that are actually good. It's possible to infuse creativity into an existing IP, but it takes the right people with the right intentions to craft a revival that feels authentic. Disney's upcoming Wizards Beyond Waverly Place series has fans hopeful for an exciting return. Even though it's focused on the next generation, Selena Gomez's involvement is promising. The adult-oriented premise for the Lizzie McGuire reboot was exactly what fans wanted from a reboot, but Disney just wasn't willing to take the risk of possibly losing out on a younger, newer audience. At the end of the day, if studios really insist on bringing back old IP instead of focusing on fostering new ideas, the best thing they can do is make sure they take account of who the actual audience is. Who even has the nostalgia for the property to want it to come back in the first place, and try to stay as true as possible to the heart and soul of the show that the audience loved so much all those years ago, while bringing it into a new era. That's the take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive new videos.